everyone, my name is Evie Lupine. Welcome back to my channel, and today I have another video for you all. Today I am so excited because we are finally doing another BDSM 101 video, and today we are going to be talking about sensation play. In researching for this video, I discovered one thing. Nobody really seems to know what the heck sensation play actually is. If you define it in the broadest possible terms, sensation play really just means anything that involves physical stimulation in BDSM. And if that's the definition we're going with, then basically everything we do in BDSM is sensation play, be that electro play, rope bondage, wax play, so on and so forth, even impact play. And I don't really think that gets to the heart of what sensation play is or how people in the BDSM community actually see it. Because in reality, if you ask for a sensation play scene, there's a particular set of related different types of play that people usually engage in that fall under the sensation play umbrella. Somebody's not going to interpret that you want to do electro play or bring out the whips if you ask for a sensation play scene, or at least they probably wouldn't. It usually is used to more specifically refer to a class of BDSM activities that are considered to be lighter forms of play, so to speak, less painful than a full-on impact play scene, less intense than a full-on bondage scene. It's almost more sort of hedonistic in a way, more about exploring the sort of sensations that our body can feel from physical touch, and if anything, maybe more the border of pleasure and pain rather than pain for its own sake. The focus is then on just that, the rapture of the sensations themselves, rather than humiliation or pain or discomfort, or even about power. It's more about just how things feel, plain and simple, rather than focusing on the extreme and trying to push boundaries and limits. It tends to stay more within comfort zones, or maybe just barely edging up to them, rather than trying to push through every single limit and trying to do the most intense things possible. I've also heard people define sensation play based on the goals of the scene, where it's more about connection and intimacy and excitement, more so than trying to get an endorphin rush or catharsis. Of course, even defining it like that, there's still a million and one ways that you can engage in sensation play, and it certainly overlaps with other areas of BDSM that are somewhat of their own thing. But this is the best way I can think of to describe it that doesn't leave out a lot of the cornerstones of sensation play without also just including all of BDSM under the same umbrella. But why would somebody choose to engage in sensation play? Why would somebody want to do something as quote-unquote simple as a feather against their cheek when there's a whole world of spanking and flogging and getting tied up to explore? Well, simply put, it just feels nice. For newer people, it's a great way to explore BDSM with minimal risks. It can be a great way to reconnect with your body and really hone in on the experience of sensation, when so many of us rush through life without really stopping to process what we're going through. It can be another great way to connect with your partner as well, really understand how their body reacts to the minutia. That can be fascinating to look at. And for people who have more experience, it can be a relaxing change of pace from the typical more high-octane stuff that heavy players do. And actually, the completely different approach to play can be just the thing a heavy masochist needs in order to be able to enjoy a scene. Like, okay, yeah, I can take whatever you can throw at me with a flogger or a whip, but just gently tickle my nose with a feather? Oh no, that's way too much, that's way too intense. And sensation play does force us to really feel all of those really tiny things that we can kind of get away with when it's basically just a wall of sensation being thrown at us in a more typical BDSM scene. And now that we understand why people engage in BDSM, what sorts of different types of sensation play are there? And I've kind of roughly broken it down into 9 categories, so I'm going to scooch over here for a second so I can show you guys on a list all of the different types of sensation play. Number 1 would be hands or fingertips. This can include kneading, drumming, stroking, tapping, just anything that involves using the hands. Number 2 would be materials, things like fabric, silk, feathers, fur. If you've seen things like fur mitts, for example, or a rabbit hide or a feather tickler, those would all fall under this category. Number 3 would be claws, knives, and Wartenberg wheels. Anything that's like metallic, sharp, pokey. It is a very, very common type of sensation play, and the Wartenberg wheel is a classic. Number 4 would be temperature. Temperature play is also its own area of kink, but I think it's also important to mention in this video. This could be done with ice cubes, it could be done with warming up or cooling down metal or ceramic objects, or it could be through the ambient temperature of a room, among many other options. Number 5 would be violet wands. Again, this is getting more into electroplay territory, but violet wands have a lot of discrete settings, and so you can use it in a more sensation-based way versus a pain-based way. Number 6 would be wax play, and I do actually have a whole other video about this one, but wax play can be something that goes into more of a sensation territory depending on the technique and the material you are using, or it can go into more of a pain territory. Number 7 is my personal favorite category, which is repurposed impact play toys, because there are lots of different ways to use toys you already own. Rather than, just striking with a paddle, you can gently caress somebody with the edge of a paddle. You can dangle the tips of a flogger against somebody's skin. You can take the back of a knife and run it across their neck. There are lots of options that involve using toys you might already have in your play bag in unconventional ways. Alright, number 8, I like to call all that in the kitchen sink because it's about food and everyday utensils. Things like whipped cream or cold milk. You can also do things like writing utensils, even the backs of books. And finally, number 9 is actually sensory deprivation. So it's the elimination of senses rather than purposely provoking them. Alright, so now the question everybody has been waiting for an answer to: how can you do sensation play for yourself? If you've been anywhere on the internet looking for beginner guides to BDSM, there's like a 99% chance sensation play is going to be one of the top recommendations that people throw out there. And that's for good reason. It has relatively lower risk compared to a lot of other types of BDSM. It's accessible, it doesn't require a lot of expensive equipment, and it's something that is generally speaking considered to be less intense than things like flogging or getting tied up or power exchange. And so for that reason, a lot of people do recommend it for beginners. And if you are looking to explore sensation play, if you don't have previous experience with BDSM, I still do always recommend going slowly. Even if it's something as seemingly innocuous as a piece of rabbit fur, you might not realize that that can bring up some really intense emotions. So always take your time, always make sure you have open communication with your partner during the course of a scene, and go slowly. Trying out single sensations or doing a quick demonstration on the back of somebody's arm where they can clearly see what's happening is a good way to kind of dip your toes into exploring a new sensation you might not have experienced before. Then when you go into an actual full-on scene, I recommend, again, keeping it simple, maybe keeping it to 2 or 3 sensations at the most. I would also recommend holding off on any restraints or gags or any sort of BDSM extras to a sensation play scene if this is your first time doing any type of BDSM. Really keep things to a minimal that could impede communication or the ability to use a safe word. And even for experienced folks, I wouldn't underestimate the potential intensity of sensation play. Yes, you might be a really heavy pain bottom that can take anything when it comes to whips and floggers, but maybe when somebody pulls out the hot wax and a feather tickler, you just lose all ability to handle yourself. I know more than a few experienced so-called heavy pain masochists that flinch and squirm like nothing else when it comes to light touch. And it makes them feel vulnerable in a way that a room-silencing bullwhip doesn't. For tops, I definitely recommend trying out sensations on yourself first. Really understand how it feels to have bunny fur against your skin, how it feels to layer different sensations together, what happens when you drip warm wax followed by cold milk, for example. This can give you an opportunity to really understand what your bottom's going through in order to make a better scene, as well as come up with novel experiences that maybe you wouldn't have if you didn't try them out on yourself first. And bottoms should definitely feel empowered to do this for themselves as well, so they really know what they like going into a scene, as well as being able to tell their partners what they don't like so they can avoid having experiences they don't want to have. Though with that being said, everyone has different relationships to different sorts of sensations, and while you might like something done to you, your partner might absolutely hate it having done to them, so also keep that in mind as well. If you have the basics mastered and you want to go further with your sensation play, you're in luck, because amongst all of the different types of play there is to do in BDSM, sensation play has probably the most variety of experiences and the most ability to really ratchet up the intensity if you want to. For example, you might mix in bondage or alternate between heavy impact play and light caressing touch. You might use it as part of a pet play scene or age play, or even as part of an act of service. So, as I've talked about so many times before in other videos, you can definitely treat sensation play as an add-on to change different types of scenes you might already be doing. Alright, with all that being said, I do need to talk about some safety concerns and misconceptions before I wrap up this video. So let's go ahead and talk about some of those things now. The number one misconception I think I got confronted with is that sensation play is just temperature play. And hopefully from all the things I talked about in this video, you can really see that sensation play goes way beyond that. It is so much more than just temperature. And definitely keep this in mind when you are negotiating for sensation play, so you can make sure that you and your partner are on the same page before you go into a full-on scene. Number two, the next misconception I see a lot from people is that sensation play is just for newbies. I think in general in the kink community, we have this really weird habit of treating it like you need to graduate from certain types of BDSM, that oh, I mean, it's nice to just do this, but eventually you're supposed to do this whole really complicated rigmarole that's super intense. And in reality, sensation play is for everyone. I think sensation play should be something that people in the BDSM community can enjoy regardless of their experience level, and we shouldn't look down on people if sensation play is their preferred way of doing kink. It's not inherently lesser than or worse than doing anything that's seemingly more intense, right? It's not about competing with people or doing the most intense things. It should be about doing things that we enjoy, and I don't think we should be judging others for what they choose to do. That being said though, sensation play, while it can be light and caressing and romantic and all the other stereotypes people have, it can also be really deeply emotional and intense. It can be an experience, and we shouldn't discount it for that. And that brings me to number three, which is the last misconception. It's something that I hear quite a lot, and it's that sensation play isn't risky or it has no risks. And that's simply not true. While it might not be on the same side of the spectrum as choking your partner until they black out, it isn't without its own pitfalls and things that one needs to be aware of. And actually, any type of BDSM play can still have risks. It's all relative. Things might be less risky, things might be more risky, but they're not entirely without risks, because there are things just in nature, in the randomness of the universe, that you can't have control over. And actually, like I've hinted at, sensation play does have mental and emotional risks. It can be something that brings up unexpected, intense, negative emotions, and it's something that we need to be aware of, because not all risk is something you can physically see in a scene. Other things to be concerned about might be things like allergens or skin irritants from body products. Other things to be concerned about would be allergens or skin irritants if you're using body products or food or animal fur. If your partner has a sensory processing disorder, some things might be really uncomfortable or overstimulating for them. So it's always important to go into negotiations with these things in mind. But I think that's everything I wanted to talk about with you guys today when it comes to the basics of sensation play. This is a really wonderful area of BDSM, and I hope that all of you get the chance to experience it if you want to. If you have any other comments or questions, you can leave them down in the comment section below, and I will be doing a follow-up video to this where I do talk about sensory deprivation specifically. Links to some other relevant BDSM 101 videos will be down in the description box below. If you really enjoyed this, if you want to see more from me, please do subscribe, because I make videos twice a week about all sorts of different types of kink and BDSM related subjects. If you want to support my channel, the best way you can do that is through Patreon. At least that will be down in the description box below as well. If you already support me over there, thank you so much. It means the absolute world to me. And until I see you guys next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.